Well, you probably noticed there's some plants here today, and there's seeds, and there's soil. So later, the adults will be making a mess. Now, you might be asking, why are they making a mess? A bigger mess than they normally do. Well, we're kind of using the idea of soil and seeds and growth and plants to talk about the theme for this month, which is renewal. And, you know, when you think about it, we're all, each of us here, is really just a seed. And we grow, and we change. And we grow in good ways. We get strong, and we get smarter. And then we also grow in ways that, you know, maybe we get, our knees start to hurt like mine. You know, I'll have trouble getting out of this chair when you leave for the Time for All Ages, because it's a little small for me. But your knees get sore and your backs get sore, so you kind of change in not so good ways. But one of the things about religious community that we try and do is we try and help people grow emotionally and spiritually to be able to cope with life's struggles. So if you think of ourselves as seeds, you can think of religious community as a kind of soil and the water and the air that kind of helps us grow. Because if you just take seeds, and I know you're all smart, so these are sage seeds. And sage, the herb sage, is a symbol of wisdom in many cultures. But if you just put sage seeds on a plate, on the carpet, it's not going to grow. You have to put it in soil. So if you put sage seeds in soil, you kind of have to protect it. Because, you know, a lot of animals will come along and eat seeds. So you plant it, you protect it, and then you water it, you nurture it. And I think that's what our religious community tries to do. It kind of nourishes us and protects us and helps us handle the kind of challenges that life has. And there's a beautiful story from the Indian tradition. And it's about this water bearer. And he carries water every day from the lake up to his house. And he carries it in this long stick with two large pots hanging in either end. And he does it every day. And the two pots, when they get to the top, are kind of magical pots because they can talk. And one of the pots is really proud because he carries a full load of water up to the top. The other pot's a little bit sad because it's got a crack in it. And so by the time he gets to the top, he's only got half the water that was filled up with. So he starts apologizing to the water bearer who carries the water. He said, "I'm so sorry, I feel inadequate, I'm imperfect, I'm a cracked pot, I've only got half the water." And the water bearer says to him, "Next time we go down, look on your right-hand side as you go down, and your right-hand side as you go up." So the pot does. And he notices when he's going down to the river with the empty pot, it's barren. But then when he's walking up, back from the river with the water that's leaking out his pot, he notices all these beautiful flowers on the path. And he tells the water bearer this, "I noticed there was beautiful flowers only on one side of the path." And he goes, the water bearer says, "No, I knew you had a cracked pot. And I knew you were spilling water. So I planted all these flowers on the path up. And you've been watering them every day that you came up." He said, "We've all cracked pots in some ways. The thing is to find out, how can we take that weakness, that imperfection in us, and turn it into something beautiful and good in the world?" So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for coming and not leaving me here by myself. And it's time for your religious education classes. I know some of you, when you came in, were looking at what's on the table with a certain fear. And some of you with a certain puzzlement. Now it's going to be revealed. And the idea for this service came when I was in a program council meeting a couple of months ago, and we were talking about the congregational meeting. And we were talking about how we thank everyone, but it doesn't seem to feel enough. People do so much to create this community. I think everyone in this room does something to create this community and make it the wonderful, nourishing and caring place that we love and come to. As we heard in the joys and sorrows portion of this service, people come with wonderful celebrations of new life, and people come with losing people who have been a part of their life since they were born. And we bring all of that into this community, and we care, and we show passion, and we nourish each other. Because sharing can just lighten that burden a little. And I mentioned during the Time for All Ages that in many ways the congregation is the soil, the air and water that nourishes each of us to help us grow, regardless of age. Grow to deal with our aging bodies, grow as we deal with changing emotional landscape of our lives. So I wanted to think, how can we really show appreciation? And if you look at the back of your order of service, there's a section. And I'm going to ask you not to be modest, but to think, write something, a gift or talent that you bring, you have brought to, or you would like to share with UUFRC. A gift or a talent, and perhaps something that people might not be aware of. You know, people see me up here, they see Sarah up here, and they go, what we bring. And whether you judge that to be a gift or talent, I'll leave that to you. But there's so much that goes on behind the scenes to make this religious community. We've got our tech team here, we've got Mocha, we've got the greeters and welcomers. We've got so much that goes on during the week. So I'd really like you to take time and write in there what your gift and talent is. And I'm going to give you some framing for it. We've got 4 plants up here. We've got mustard, sage, rosemary, and thyme. And I thought about doing parsley for the famous song, Bascabra Fair. I thought, I don't think of any of you as parsley. Now, mustard, on the other hand, if you think what you bring to this community may be a contrarian view or a spicy view, then bring that. I think that's one of the joys of Unitarian Universalism, is we bring our full selves, our contrarian views, because bringing contrarian views can help us all to grow spiritually. And there's sage. So that's mustard. Sage, it's an obvious, it's common throughout many cultures, sage being a symbol of wisdom. So if that's what you bring, write that down. And then there's thyme. And excuse my spelling, but that's for the time that you bring to this religious community. And then the final one is rosemary. And that's for services. Rosemary is often a herb and a seed that reflects remembrance, memory of the past. So if you are someone who's done so much for community in the past and needs to step back to renew yourself, then you can reflect that. So I'm going to invite you, after a blessing, to come forward. The soil here, and you'll see there's a mustard plant, a sage plant, a rosemary plant, and a thyme plant. And there's 4 empty jars next to each plant. There's also soil behind. I invite you to take a scoop, and if you think you bring a contrarian view, add something to the mustard. If you feel you bring something of wisdom, add it. And I want to point out the wisdom one's the one with the woman's head. Because we all know Sophia. It's an example of wisdom. And some would say, like half the population would probably say that women are wiser than men. I'm not going to say that. I'm a believer in equity. And then we've got the blue and white one is rosemary, and the final one, the potty one, is thyme. So it's mustard, sage, rosemary, and thyme. And put as much earth as you wish for what you bring. And also, if you can tear off what you wrote out and put them in the wooden bowl in the mix in the middle, then I'm going to read those anonymously after you come forward. I'm just going to read them until we get an idea of all the talent, all the things that are brought into this. For those of you online, if you type into the chat, now you can direct message me, I've still got my phone active, or you can just type in and I will add earth into the appropriate container for you, and I will share the gift that you bring. But before that, I'd like to offer a reading and a blessing. So I invite you to join me in a blessing. And these are the words by Jen Richardson called Blessing of the Well. If you stand at the edge of this blessing and call down into it, you will hear your words return to you. If you lean in and listen close, you will hear this blessing give the story of your life back to you. Quiet your voice. Quiet your judgment. Quiet the way you always tell your story to yourself. Quiet all these, and you will hear the whole of it and the hollows of it. The space in the telling, the gaps where you hesitate to go. Sit at the rim of this blessing. Press your ear to its lip, its sides, its curves that were carved out long ago by those whose thirst drove them deep, those who dug into the layers with only their hands and hope. Rest yourself beside this blessing, and you will begin to hear the sound of water entering the gaps. Still yourself, and you will feel it rising up within you, filling every emptiness, springing forth anew. Those are the words of Jen Richardson from her Circle of Grace. So I invite you to come forward. There's implements to put soil. This is mustard, sage, rosemary, thyme. And come forward, and we will start like we did at the flower communion. We'll start at the back, come down the side aisles, come forward, and then return to your seat through the middle aisle. And you can drop the gifts that you bring into this bowl in the middle. And I'll be here for any questions, and Larry is going to accompany us with music. So I had a couple of people in the chat said they wanted a scoop of thyme and a pinch of sage. Well, I appreciate both your humility, that the mustard is almost as big as any of the other ones. And it's hard, but it's really important to recognize the gifts we bring to this community that is the soil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the seeds for each of these. And I'm going to nurture these in my office for the next year. And the end of the next church year, I'm going to bring these plants back to see how they're doing. And if they die, it's my fault, not yours. But these will be part of our end-of-year ritual in June every year. And we'll see how these plants grow with the contributions that we all have. I'd like to offer this ritual blessing by Reverend Gretchen Haley on claiming this time of renewal. Though you've been warned and give plenty of explanations, reasons to do otherwise, you have persisted to claim a life of joy and justice and to carve out this time of renewal for your own heart. Despite the din demanding your attention, luring you towards fear and cynicism, you persist with gratitude for this day, this life that has been given, this chance to begin again. Despite all the forces of fragmentation, the disappointing ways we fail each other, fail ourselves, we must refuse to let grief undo us, or to let our dreams get lost upon the way. In spite of all the evidence, we keep showing up at the edge of our own longing. And then we keep going, remembering this duty we have to life in a greater sense. This duty we have to each other, our children and their children. This hope that is also a choice we make. This promise we fight for, to persist in kindness, persevere in compassion, and prevail in a life that is bound entirely to love. I invite you to join me in a time of silence, a breath, as we reflect on all the gifts that we bring to this community, all the gifts that we benefit from. All the soil that helps us to grow, all the water that helps us to grow, all the nutrients that help us to grow, that we receive from friends, from family, from this community. Blessed be, and amen. Thank you for these. I will be sharing these in next week's service. So come back